here. So I'm going to go into the unit here. I'm going to create a folder for unit 5. And we're going to write some scripts. So I'm going to turn this off now. I don't need this anymore. Create my usual file, index for unit 5. I will write a script inside my JS folder. I'll call it just we'll call it debug.js. Okay. And then link it to this file. I wish I could just drag and drop, but it doesn't give me that. So, not trying to be lazy though. Trying to be efficient. Okay, so it'll be src is equal to the js.debug. Okay, so that's my script. Just put a div here so we can put some data if you want to. ID output. And just put a message here so we know that it's running, right? Make sure you see something, it's working. And have I not closed this? Yeah, that's fine. So save that. I'm going to run this to that browser so it stays there. Okay. So let me expand, close this. I'm going to go into the script. So for now, we're just going to do some really simple try-catch. Okay. Like for example, if I just suddenly put something like throw in my code here, I should say throw error, right? If I do that, that's my single line of code here in my script. If I save this, it will run, it will execute that file, and I can debug this internally. So I can do a right click and debug the debug.js, or I can go back here, it doesn't matter, debug the JS. You see that it throws the error message right here. Okay? It outputs it to the console. Right? And if you go back to the other browser here, if I were to press F12 here as well, if I run this, you'll see that it has the error message I put here, error with a pound sign. I mean, exclamation mark is here. It says uncaught error, debug line 5. Okay, so we throw something, you force this to throw an error. Notice you have the X icon here to show to yourself that that's an error. And you do this just for debugging purposes. So if you were to, let's just say, you know what, if I have, let's just say var t is equal to 3 divided 0, right? You can say if so I think 3 divided 0 in JavaScript is valid. It will give you a value of infinity. It doesn't crash. I found, if not mistaken. So just to see that, we'll just put like a console log t. Okay, and we'll save that. We'll debug locally here. We can see right here. So I'll go ahead and click debug here, since my debug.js is here already. If it's not, you can refresh it. Go over here and then refresh over here too. It's fine. So if I do that, okay, so you see that it has the value of infinity for the division here. So usually it would say it's a division by 0 is not allowed. So now you can say if you know, if it's infinity, then throw an error, right? Or you can say if this divisor is 0. So normally you would say something like var divisor, right, is equal to something, and then you put divisor here. Before you even test this, right, usually you would say up here, we'll turn this off, say if divisor is equal to 0, right, then throw this error, right, else, and then you can go ahead and run the code. It's for validating your code. So throw the error, cause an error, so that you don't have the option of the error of dividing by 0 to get that infinity value. And if I were to run this, debug this, you see that I have the throw error here. So I don't have the output here. This is ignored. I have to change that to a 2, for example, and then that should pass, right? And I should get the result of 3 divided by 2 about 1.5. So here I have 1.5, and I don't have the throw message. Okay, so again, you use that just to test to make sure that something is not something is valid. And once you have it running, then of course you don't want to put that throw in there anymore. You want to replace this with something else, a nice message. Okay. So you can also do something like so notice again when I run this, if this is 0, we saw that it output this message to the screen with an error and so on. If you want to put this into a try block, so you can say something like try, okay, and I'll wrap this inside the try, and you have to use either the catch or the finally with the try. You have to come up with one pair. You can't just leave like this, I think. It won't run. So you can catch the error. The error can be stored inside any variable you want, and just call it E for error. And so what that means is to throw the error message here instead of just displaying on the red screen like there. It will pass the message here to the variable E, and then you can nicely display the message down here. Right? You could display it to yourself, or display it to, for example, the document.getElementById. By ID. We call it output. Okay. Only thing is we want to make sure we wrap this inside a the DOM. The window load, right? Because this will not be found because we put that in the top of the script. So we have to wrap that with the window load. So let's just put up here window unload. Use the anonymous function, and then we'll just close that at the bottom down here. Okay, so it's nicely nested inside the function. So now this should work. Okay. So in this case, I'm expecting to have the error message here display right below the word debug here. Actually, I'm not done there. We could do something like that. We can do like var output equals that, right? Output .html equals E. Whatever E is will be this error here. So save that. And without debugging here, we're just going to go over here and see if we refresh this. Okay, you see that little error message here because it does have an error. Have a division by 0. So we have the error here. You could also be more specific. You can say error division by 0, not allowed, right? So you do that, you save, reload, you see that message is there. Okay, so you throw the error message, and notice it doesn't show up on the console anymore, because I catch the error, and once I catch it, you can choose to display it or ignore it. Okay, so it doesn't have that error message on the screen here, and so on. So the try catch, again, you cannot do 2 catches, right? You could in Java, but I don't think it lets you here. So you can see there's only 1 catch. Okay. But you can put finally here. This doesn't take any value. You just put the message here. Whatever you put here will be, or whatever you don't put here will run anyway. It doesn't matter whether there's an error or not. So again, if I put here console log, all is good, whatever, right? It just means the bad or good doesn't matter. This statement will run. And if I save this, if I run it, you see that the message is there, okay? Even if I have an error. Even if I don't have an error, if I put 2 here. If I don't have an error, it should still show the message, okay? But instead of writing to the window, we put that to the console because this is true now. So we have that 1.5 output to the console instead of that the window. Any questions? Okay, let's do one more. Let me comment all these out. You do something like, I might have an array of, so I want to try something, we'll catch it, put an E. So inside here I might have like an array of data, right? I could say var data is equal to 1, 2, 3. Okay, and you can check your array to make sure that you have some data in there, right? If it doesn't have it, then you can throw an error, right? So you can say something like if data of so we have like 0, 1, 2, assuming that you have a loop through some number of some whatever the number is, and you want to check the number has, or that data has something. So if you accidentally just say you have, or if you don't know the data here, you don't know what that, how many value there are, if you don't see it, because you could be reading this data from another source, from another file. Let's say if you have an API that links to Snapchat or Instagram to pull some data, and there you don't know what the data is, right? Assume that you want to check that. You want to make sure that the 4th or the 3rd element has, if that doesn't have, if it's not a number, for example, if it's not a number, or if the data of 3 is undefined, right? I mean, those are blank. If that's the case, then you can throw the error. You can say, you can throw it, right? Not a valid number. And it will stop execution at this point. It will jump over to the catch. So it doesn't matter how many lines of code you have down here, it'll all be ignored. Okay? And then the catch, so this E here will store whatever these information here. So you can say we have the, we're going to copy, just copy this. Well, I'll put that to the site. Okay, so we have that output to the message. It says it's not allowed. So you read data, you can check to make sure everything is number. I could do this, or I could do something like, well, we'll see. So we'll save that, go back, and refresh. I'm going to refresh this. Okay, so we'll see that this is not a valid number. Let me change my div here to like an H2 or something. Make it bigger. Okay, and I'll zoom spec to 100. Let's see. Okay, so it's not a valid number because this one is true. If I were to add that third element with an A, right, that should still be invalid because it's not a number. So it still be not a valid number. Oops, or did not show, or is undefined. 0, 1, 2, 3. What happened there? Is A a number? That's interesting. Unless it converts it to a ASCII number, but that should throw an error here. Okay, that's interesting. So let's see if I have anything else. I can figure out why that one's not working. Okay. Okay, well, I want to just show you some information, some data here, and we can kind of do real quickly together. We'll see what type of error these are. If you know what these are, just let us know.
Is it because you didn't have a semicolon after the throw?
Over here? No, it shouldn't matter, that one. You can try that, just make sure, but it should be the case. Save that. Yeah. It's just the value here. For some reason A is not, or maybe if I put like I do that, I guess. Let's see what that does. No, that still didn't work. So for some reason that it's not thrown. So that's interesting. If I put here, what happened? If I put G console log G data of 3. If it doesn't have error, it should run this line of code. So it does. So, interesting. Okay, that's something we want to figure out why that should fail. But okay, so if I were to give you an exam, if I say suddenly in my code I put something like person in my code, what type of error would that be? What do you think? Is that valid? Yeah, this right could be a syntax error. Yeah. Right. Remember, you cannot just like put a variable in like that. That would generate an error. You have to do like we use the var or the let, right? That's okay, or the let. It's okay. Okay, if you just leave it blank like that, then it's undefined, and you have an error. And if you want to know what that is, you run it, you'll see that it has an error called "is not defined." Right, so you haven't defined the variable name yet. Okay, suddenly it just appears, so it doesn't know what to do with it. So it's an undefined error. If you set that to a value, then that's fine. This is also probably an error because we're at minus 10 from itself. It itself is undefined. Okay, so you see that if I save it or debug that, it says again it's undefined. See the same thing as saying person equal to person -1, right? -10. It doesn't work because there's no value yet. Okay, so if I do this, it's okay because now it's a global variable, and that should be legal. Okay. What about let's try something. I might have something here to show you. Okay, if I were to do something like this, what am I thinking here? If I say for var I equals 0, I less than 10, I plus plus, console log I. What should happen here? Syntax error. So Colin says syntax error because of this semicolon.
Semicolon after the for loop, so where you find the for loop, there should be nothing between the parentheses and that open brace.
Right here. So in other words, you would say it's a syntax error, right? There's nothing wrong with this code here. It's completely legal. You see is that the statement actually ends there. This is completely separate block, right? So if you terminate that, you assume that it's going to print the log of I. It doesn't work. You have an issue here because I is not defined. Because I is local to this 4 here, but you end that loop here. So nothing gets printed out. It will say I is not defined. Maybe, we'll see. It actually does. Okay, yeah, it does because we declared the variable I in here, and it runs the loop 10 times. It doesn't output anything because we output the last variable here. I thought it doesn't declare, but it does. Because the var, it would hoist this variable out into the global space up here. Okay, so that's why I would still be defined. That makes sense. But it's not printing the way we expected. If I take that out, you see that it should print all the way from 1 to 10, like here, right? But because of the semicolon here, sometimes you just mistype that, and you will assume that that should work. You'll see that you only get the last number, which is 10, after you run that 10 times. Okay, so be very careful with that. This is not a syntax error, it's a logic error. Okay, very confusing, but it does happen. Okay, I have a very kind of difficult one here, but I'll leave that. I'll put that on Blackboard so you guys can take a shot at it and see what you can do. You can find the errors for that one. It's a really good problem solver, and I'll post that on the Blackboard for you. I know where time is out, so I'll stop here. Any questions before we go today? Okay, so I'll see you guys next week. What do you do next week anyway? Chapter 6, forms validation, which should be something similar. We did a little bit last time, but we'll do some more with the validation for forms. That should be fun. Okay, so